everyone, it's Silva, and in today's video I thought I would go ahead and explain what happened after I left Harper's Ferry. So if you've been following along, you know that my last video I stopped in Harper's Ferry with operator and my daughter came and picked us up. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll link that here. So we had a nice time in Harper's Ferry exploring around a little bit and going out to lunch, and then we dropped operator back off at the hotel and his wife was picking him up the next day. Then we went back to my daughter and son-in-law's house, and I spent about 3-4 days there just being able to catch up with them, and it was a really nice time. At the time, my heel was still really hurting, so I mostly rested. I tried to go on a couple short walks, but my heel was really bothering me at that point. So something I talked about a little bit when I was in the Shenandoahs in one of my videos is about a lash, and if you haven't seen that, I will link it here. But in case you missed it, LASH does stand for long A section hike. And I had decided after, hiking, which I explained in that video, that I think maybe completing the trail using the LASH method was really the way that it was going to happen for me at this point. Doesn't mean I'm not going to go back at some point and do a through hike of the whole trail. But as you know, if you've been following along, and if not, I'll just give you a quick update. My mom has been really sick. When I got on the trail earlier at the beginning of April, after 11 days, I did have to come home for a while because she was so sick, and then she got better and I went back, but she's still really not doing well, very up and down. So there's another term I learned on the trail besides LASH, which I think is really fun. It's called MYTH, and it stands for multi-year through hike, which is just fun. I know that it can't be a traditional through hike if you don't complete it within 365 days, so don't come at me. I understand that. But it's just a fun thing to say, multi-year through hike. I'm doing a myth. Do I still dream about through hiking the AT? Absolutely. Maybe someday me and Matt will get to do it together. But for now, I was able to do 2 huge sections of the trail. And so what I'm going to do in this video is just explain, how my journey's gone so far, what my journey's going to look like in the next couple of years, what's going on this summer, and just kind of an update of everything. So if you're new to my channel, then you may not know that in 2021 I had set out to do a through hike of the Appalachian Trail going NOBO, or northbound. I did the approach trail first, starting in Georgia, and then, hopped on the AT and continued northward. And it was my intention to do a complete through hike. Unfortunately, I had a severe injury along the way, and I ended up having to stop at mile 657 due to the severity of my ankle injury and not being able to continue to walk right, and the damage I was doing to my ankle. But like I said, I did complete 657 miles. And then, when I got home, I had to do a whole bunch of rehab and therapy to fix my ankle situation. So that led me to try and figure out what to do next. Multiple times I thought about doing different things in 2022, but it just isn't quite in the cards for that year. And I was, like I said, so many ideas in my head. Do I start completely over? But then I don't really want to redo the first 657 miles, because what if you get injured again and then you just keep completing the same miles? Or do I go southbound because I live in Maine? Just the whole drama of trying to figure out what I wanted to do. So in the end, if you've been following along, in 2023 at the beginning of April, I jumped on where I left off at Peters Mountain Trailhead, right outside of Parisburg, and that was mile 657. And I can link that first video of the return to the trail here if you haven't seen it. And then I continued north. I was going solo. I did have some foot issues at that point, but it wasn't my heel like in the recent past. It was just a lot of blisters. I had the wrong shoes, so I was having some issues with that. But I was still going and trying to deal with the blisters and everything. But my mom got very ill. We had to move her from where she was living into a memory care unit, and there was a lot going on. And so I had to come home. I came home because I am her power of attorney and guardian. So I came home for 2.5 weeks to try and get that situated. And at that point, the doctors had said she was doing much better and I could return to the trail. So I then returned where I had left off, right at the 1/3 marker of the trail. And my very first night on trail is when I met operator and Cherry. And, I hiked the rest of the time I was on trail with operator. Cherry was there for just a week. and me and operator, became a tramily, and with, Cherry and then Do Man. And if you've watched my recent videos, you've seen all of that. At that point, I didn't really know where I was going to get off the trail. I was thinking I was going to, continue on until I hit Katahdin and then decide if I wanted to flip back and redo those miles or just call it 2 big lashes. But the more I hiked and the more I kept in touch with family with a lot going on, and I found that I really missed Matt, that I ended up deciding to jump off the trail in Harper's Ferry after completing 368.1 miles with operator. And he also was planning to get off in Harper's Ferry, so it was a really good ending spot. Knowing the plan originally was my daughter was going to meet us there and I was going to at least do a Nero 0 with her, or maybe 2 zeros. It was a good jump off point and getting back on point for the future. So a little bit more in depth about my AT journey so far. In 2021, when I got injured and I had to get off trail, I was absolutely devastated. I got home and I was injured and I was depressed and I had to go back to work, and I honestly truly felt like a failure. I felt like I had blown it. I didn't meet the goal I'd set out to make. And, everybody that was following on my YouTube would think I was a failure. It was just very hard mindset to come back and try and dig myself out of that hole I'd created. 2021, at the beginning, I really did compare myself to other hikers. I jumped on and thought, after a few weeks, I'll get my trail legs. It took me more than a month to get trail legs. And I thought, I'll be able to do 20-mile days just like everybody else. And honestly, my biggest day at that point was 16 miles. I was comfortable doing 13 to 15 miles a day. And at that point, it did bother me that I couldn't do these huge miles like all these other people. Flash forward to 2023, I got on trail with a much, much different mindset, a much better, more healthy mindset for me. And that was, I didn't compare myself to other hikers. I was very happy at the beginning doing 10, 12-mile days. And then we did, 13, 14-mile days. And I was happy with that. When others talked about, well, don't you want to push yourself and try and do a 20-mile day? I was like, no. I had no interest in trying to do that. I was very happy doing the mileage we were doing. Yes, I would probably have increased if I'd kept going maybe a few more miles, especially with the sections we were coming into where it was getting a little easier. But I didn't feel like, I have to do, the 4-state challenge and I have to do these things. I was just really all about what works for me and my body. And that was such a much better place to be in. Also, because we were taking our time, we did both feel, me and operator, that we could go, follow a blue blaze to a waterfall and, spend time there and then come back to trail. And maybe we only did 7 miles on the AT that day because we did several miles on a blue blaze to see a waterfall or a beautiful view. And we weren't feeling the pressure that some thru hikers feel to just get in the miles and go forward and not get to see the other things around that we wanted to be able to see. And that also was a weight off my shoulders to feel like, what? I don't have to hit a certain point. I don't have to hike as many miles as somebody else. I can do what I want to do. Hike your own hike, right? Also, getting off the trail, there are several reasons, like I was saying earlier. My mom had some other family things going on. My daughter has just moved back to Maine at the beginning, actually the end of 2022, and she's getting into hiking and wants to try backpacking. I did miss Matt a lot, and it's summertime in Maine, and I wanted to be able to do some fun things with Matt and some fun things with my youngest Kaylee, who wants to try out backpacking. And there's a lot of fun things to do in Maine in the summertime. And my heel, if you watched my last 2 videos, was really, really giving me a hard time. And I've come to find out it looks like it's plantar fasciitis, and it was really bothering me. And it's bothered me quite a bit since getting off trail, but I do believe it's getting better. And when I returned home, I didn't have that devastation like I did in 2021. Leaving the trail is always a little sad because you've been out there for several days. I can't remember. I think it was 46, but I'll put it down below just to be sure. I'm pretty sure I was out there for 46 days in total, not counting the 2.5 weeks I had to come home to take care of my mom. But, it's an adjustment coming back into town and regular life. But I was not depressed. I was not devastated. I was very happy to see my family, enjoy time with my family. I'm excited about planning trips for this summer and when I return to the Appalachian Trail and planning that. So overall, in the 2 lashes that I've done, I've completed 1,025 0.1 miles in total. So not quite halfway. Harper's Ferry is the psychological halfway point. And I did really consider pushing it a little more to get to the actual halfway point. But Harper's Ferry was just a really good jumping on and off location. It worked for me, for my family. So that's why I ended at a funny mile marker, but that's what worked. Like I said before, in 2021, I did 657 miles plus the approach trail. And in 2023, I completed 368.1 miles. As you can see, I'm not a fast hiker, but that's okay. We had such a great time. Whether you're fast or not, you don't have to do 20 miles a day to complete the trail. You can complete the trail as a through hike by doing 10, 12, 13 miles a day. It's definitely possible, and I know lots of people who've done it. So how will I go about finishing the trail? Because I do intend to complete it. So I would like to complete it in the next 2 years, possibly 3. We're just gonna have to see how that all works out. And my plan is next April to jump back on where I left off in Harper's Ferry. I don't know the exact date or anything like that yet, but April sometime. And it's just a nice time. It's not too hot yet, super buggy yet. So April, May is a pretty good time to do that. And then home in the summer months. So 6 to 8 weeks next time is the plan. Like I said, it's not set in stone yet, but it's exciting to think about that. And I honestly don't want to set it in stone because I don't want that pressure. I have to make it to this point by this time. I want to be able to enjoy the adventure and do a side trail if I want, take a 0 when I want, and not feel the pressure of I have to get to a certain mile by a certain date or catastrophe. So I would really like to finish it in 2 years, but again, if it takes 3, it takes 3. But it will be in the same Lash fashion where, I do as many miles as I want in that amount of time. So my upcoming plans for this summer, I have lots of ideas. I haven't nailed everything down yet, but one thing I really, really do want to do is the Pemmy Loop in New Hampshire. And that is a pretty, rugged trail, but I'm excited about it. It's not very long, and it's probably an hour and a half from me. So I would only be gone a few days, maybe 3 days, or 4 depending on travel, but probably 3. And that way it's close enough that if something happened, I could still get off the trail quickly and get home to take care of my mom, and I would only be gone for a few days, and it's not very far. So that really does work out for what's going on in my family as of right now. I'm considering doing the Presidential Traverse also this summer or fall, so we'll see about that. I do love the Grafton Loop Trail, which I've done several times, so there is a possibility I would do that again. Would also like to get another trip in Vermont in, and so I'm just kind of researching it and seeing what I want to do. There's multiple day hikes that I want to do with Matt as well, but some of those are far away, so it may be that we only hike a couple miles that day, set up camp, do the rest of the hike and drive back, only because it's so far to get to the day hike, and then to drive 3 or 4 hours and then try and hike 10 miles and then drive back. It's a lot. So that might be how we do it. So those plans are in the air, but I do plan to get back out and do multiple backpacking trips over the summer and fall. And of course, longer day hikes. I've done a few since I've been back with friends and a few with Matt. But as of, I start to hit about 4 miles and my heel really, really starts to hurt again. So I'm trying to work on stretching and strengthening that so that I can get over the plantar fasciitis. I did finally get new shoes, and maybe I'm going to get another pair of street shoes so I can get some miles around the house in and, not injure my heel further. And some of the other things I'll be doing, of course, is some gear review videos from the gear I used while I was on the AT this year. I'll be talking about some of the favorite things I liked about doing a lash or section hike, and so I'll be doing some gear like that. I'm going to try and get back to doing my short videos when I take one piece of gear and try and do a quick review of it in the short time frame. That's always a fun way to do it. And some other videos. I'm going to do a video on how I packed my backpack, go over anything that I thought that maybe I didn't need to carry. Lots of upcoming videos that I'll be doing. If you have an idea or something that you would like me to do a video on, you put it in the comments below and I'll see what I can do. like I said, I'm looking forward to starting to plan, you know, my 2024 AT section. And, you know, I've been in touch with operator, and we're hoping, a year's a long time away, but we are hoping that we'll be able to jump on together and do it, a section together, as well as Cherry and Dooman possibly jumping on, and maybe not as soon as we start, but in the weeks while we're out there. So that is something we're looking ahead to see if that all plans out, and that will be so much fun. So I'm looking forward to that and my trips this summer, and then you'll get to see more of Matt again, and my daughter will be going on her very first backpacking trip once I find the 2-person tent that I would like. Here's another question for all of you. What 2-person lightweight backpacking tent do you recommend? There's so many out there, and it looks like, you know, when you're backpacking with 2 people, you really want a 3-person tent. But I'd love to hear what you guys use for a tent. And then once I get that, I'll, you know, we'll review that. But I asked her if she would be willing to sleep in 2 separate tents, because I have, you know, 2 different backpacking tents. And she was like, no way. She's not sleeping all by herself in a tent. So I said, okay, that's fine. I needed a 2-person backpacking tent anyway, because Matt's going to start doing some trips with me. So let me know what your recommendations are in the comments below. Again, if you have any other video ideas, I'll probably do a question and answer video coming up pretty soon too. So that's all I have for you today. I thought I would just kind of give you that rundown of why I jumped off the trail, and, you know, where and why and how, and, you know, touch base with you guys. I do have a couple videos coming up, anniversary trip that we did, and some hiking trips I did with friends. So hope you're all having a fantastic week. Thank you so much for always following along, and I'll see you in the next video.